even know what a Stallone cut is, little dog?
Stallone Cuts. Stallone Cuts. Sylvester Stallone Cuts. Stallone Cuts. Stallone Cuts. Sylvester Stallone. Well, howdy, y'all, and welcome to Thirsty for More.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome to Tulsa Kings, another episode, 6th episode of Tulsa Kings, dude.
6th episode of Tulsa Kings.
How are you feeling about Tulsa Kings at this point?
I love Tulsa Kings. I feel like every other episode of this show is not very good.
I'm your host, Milenko.
And I'm Aleks.
And welcome to fucking Thirsty for More. Yeehaw!
Howdy, y'all! Dwight Manfredi.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. So, this episode starts out with Cold Open Stallone. 6 minutes Cold Open Stallone. I love it. At this point, I love MTV so much.
What did you think of this?
Like, are you asking me all in all? Because I don't think I can give you an all in all answer. Like, it's a complicated answer. This was probably my least favorite episode, but it had some great moments in it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to acknowledge the great moments, but I also want to be like, I just feel like, this episode is
every other episode.
Hey, listen, Stallone's gotta give it to us in portions, No, he was really good in it. I think he made this episode better than the episode was.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that's in here that I'm like, okay, the horse comes back, and Stallone's daughter comes back.
My Stallone. My daughter is important, Stallone.
His daughter is so important.
Yeah. I mean, so important that he had his real daughter in the show, in this episode, and his fake daughter, who looks more like his real daughter.
Totally.
Like she's his real daughter, yeah.
But Macy's mom goes to visit Stacy's mom.
Okay, so Macy versus Stacy. Macy's an informant. What did you think of this plot twist?
That was great. I thought that was great.
I thought it was great too.
Initially, making her just out to be an unhinged maniac.
Making her just to be like, listen, y'all.
Yeah.
We're gonna kill those pussies.
I gotta kill them.
They're pussies.
Yeah. And her being that kind of, like...
Macy's mom.
Yeah, Macy's mom. And Stacy's mom has got it going on. Having the...
just slinkily trying
to be like, oh no, I don't know him.
I don't know anything about Stallone. Yeah. Who said anything about Stallone?
And her partner, why do you care so much about this? Like, his normalcy was pretty hilarious.
Well, she's more so than that. She's actively impeding an investigative process.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, I don't care because, whatever, but also, this adds complexity to her character of, she's willing to sort of, stick to her people in a way. Or, you know what
totally.
I mean?
But also it feels a little bit like it's somehow too fast and too slow. The show has always suffered from this problem of being... Some plot threads are going a little bit too fast.
Too fast. Too furious.
And the other plot threads aren't moving fast
And some
enough.
of those ones are intersecting weirdly.
Yeah. But I appreciate Macy being an informant because that adds complexity to her character. Speaking of complexity, when Pete is back home after being assaulted by... Tell me. What is it?
Did you... No.
And Chicky being like,
my name is Chicky,
but also just being like,
Pa, what are we gonna do with him? What are we gonna do with him, Pa? And he's like, listen, if you had any of the balls of Stallone.
Yeah, totally, which I appreciated.
Okay, so this is an interesting scene that fills out a lot of complex character feelings and roles. Stallone is Pete appreciates Stallone's old schoolness.
So much so that he slaps Cheeky in the face, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
His daughter?
His daughter? I would have killed him myself.
Which I kind of respect for Pete in this moment, was of like at least sticking to, because like a lot of what Stallone. And we'll get to the aggression, because like he does kill someone aggressively, but it's kind of explained in a brilliant way by Stallone and acted brilliantly by Stallone. That's also supported by this scene where like Pete is like, I would have done the same thing. You're a disgrace. You're like, he's talking about this thing that they're in.
Yeah, totally.
And like, that's Cosa Nostra, dude.
But Cheeky also has a different value system. It's a much more modern value system.
Exactly. Cheeky's like way more...
My name is Cheeky.
About the bottom line. He's way more... This is a problem, Pa. It's a liability in this business.
It's totally... And also, I noticed that he gives off a little bit of...
He's just gonna decide out of the fucking blue.
Yeah, like it kind of like he's constantly getting cocked and big dogged. He's constantly getting like put into a subservient masculine place, and it's like because this world is all about like who's got the bigger dick, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so they're talking about like Cheeky, like and they're talking about Nico and like he killed my driver, Pa.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like they're kind of like weighing out the like value that Nico had to the family versus like the transgression that he had against the family, because like Stallone trusted Pete. He's like, you said nothing bad would happen to them.
Yeah.
Like, so like Pete's like respects Stallone's resolve.
Yeah, and then Stallone in the next scene comes to visit Tina, and
but we didn't say that Vince is like, I said we get rid of him.
Oh yeah, totally.
Vince wants to get
obviously.
Let's just cut our losses to get rid of him.
But then Manfredi goes to baby Manfredi, and he's like, listen, Tina, I handled it you have your way, I have my way.
So he goes to the flower shop.
You should have no guilt. None. You should have no guilt. None.
Okay. So this is a really interesting scene.
Yeah,
I
totally.
think
I think so too.
Like, this is my favorite scene in
the justifiable vengeance.
Yeah, like so like he says, you don't know what it's like to have a daughter. What's the line he says? It's like,
I'm your father and I love you. I don't know if you believe that or not.
Like, and his calm, dead-eyed, no forehead performance.
Totally, and it's not based on some code.
The code of Harry is satisfied.
It's based on a love for daughter.
Yeah. So he's like, listen, and Stallone really is vulnerable in this scene because he's acknowledging the mistakes he's made. He's like, I know everything.
I know
every bad thing.
My life.
Every bad thing that's ever happened to you is because of me.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging his own thing, but also he's still doing actions, and she says so much, like he's still doing actions that have direct implications on her.
And also it's crazy to me. Like I said this last episode, where it's like all the problems he's bringing to these people are just the different kinds of toxic problems, and he keeps saying like, oh, like everything, you'll be safe, and it's like, dude,
you don't know that.
Number one, you don't know that. And number two, you promised that before, and it didn't happen.
It's such bossa energy.
It's so bossa. It's such a boomer jabbing at you energy
with fingers. Yeah. And like he to his credit, he really acts it well, and it's like believable. It's believable that he would feel this way, and that's what really makes the scene work. I don't think he's right, and I think there's a ambiguity in the scene between her and him of like,
which is a nice payoff from the last episode.
Exactly, because he doesn't even let her finish the sentence, and he acts with like this like immediate impulsive energy to like just like right a perceived wrong instead of like righting the other wrong that was of the lack of like their relationship.
Yeah, or like asking her what she wants, what she needs, what's about
supporting her in the moment. Yeah. So it's like it's interesting
evolving,
though.
He is evolving.
It's evolving the characters really nicely. Stallone comes back and is met up with Tyson at the airport, and Tyson's like,
I got arrested. Car got impounded. Like, he's just like casual. Because I kind of agree with also his like stance in this scene, because he's a little bit like, I don't know, dude. Like, they wanted me apparently because I work for you. And Stallone's also, like losing the thread a little bit. He's like,
yeah, totally.
Fuck.
He acted the losing the thread a little bit also really well.
Because he's losing the thread, and his attempts in how he communicates later to Coltrane. He's like, dude, like, I think that, you know, he tries to like big dog him in a way, and Coltrane's like, it did not go the way I wanted it.
Yeah, totally.
If you had asked me for a taste.
Yeah. Knows that he's not from there, Stallone.
Okay, we'll get to that. I'm sorry. But where are we now? He has the daughter's important scene.
He's got the daughter's important scene, and also Tyson is like, oh man, like, I don't know, man, like, you couldn't get me because they got my phone, and they were like, do they know anybody in there? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. They have hacking and shit, even though he gave them the password.
I mean, yeah.
But they end up going to Bodhi's, and Bodhi's is closed because Bodhi is traumatized from almost being killed. And then we get the FBI call to about Manfredi in the next scene, where Stacy keeps trying to she's like slinkily be like, what do we care about this guy? We're ATF.
It's really at this point, like,
we don't care.
At this point, it's really suspect. It's like, I don't know. For reasons we won't talk to.
And it's
he's like, what are you talking? And he's so
since
kind
when
of.
Do you care about not wanting to give other departments what they need?
He's kind of indignant about it, and I like that because it's realistic. Like, he's like,
challenging.
What are you talking about? Like, yeah, of course I'm gonna like do this. It's my job.
Yeah.
So like that was a cool push pull, and he calls Officer whatever it is.
But does he have a name, or should I call him lawyer?
Is like an FBI, and he's like, hey, I thought you guys should know about this. And and what happens next?
Manny and Macy get together, and
what did you think of this scene?
I loved this scene because of the fact that the unhingedness of previous scenes makes total sense in this scene.
For Macy?
Because it's like, yeah, she's like kind of trying to warn him. The other stuff was warning him, but warning him in a different way, because
she's collaborating and making plans with.
So I was really excited about that development.
So do you think like they kind of off screen told Manny or implied to Manny that she is with them? Because she's like, I'm gonna broker this.
That's what I
meeting.
like about her character now, because before it seemed like this is just some typical like, oh, she's like, what are trashy they doing or with whatever. This? Yeah, but now it's like, oh, this is kind of intriguing. I really like this.
I like it too. Yeah.
The next scene is with Tina getting the mysterious phone call, which is very scary, and also the very real impact of him coming back in her life and just like and destroying it.
What she knew would be the case. Like, she like resents him for not being there, but she was also just like, everything you touch turns to shit. She says that to him.
Yeah, and the willingness to come in and be like, oh, okay, like, I'm gonna do this, and then it's like, but this is what you're doing?
This is what your house is like, filthy
like this?
Is that how your house is filthy like that?
And then Mitch catches Stallone up on what happened and about Bodhi and being terrified, and he's like, is he all right? Well, he needs a new pair of underwear, but I'll think he'll be fine. And he's like, I tried calling him, nothing. The shop is closed, everything.
Oh, I love nothing, everything.
Yeah,
that was great. Stallone is like, you know, losing the thread Stallone, but like loves his friend Stallone.
Yeah, totally.
Loves Bodhi Stallone. Loves Bodhi.
But then he catches up with Tina and is like, and she, bless this type of writing, because she's just like, I'm getting mysterious phone calls, like, immediately.
She's like, I don't know.
And she's
it's
like, I don't
nothing.
know. It's probably nothing, but
yeah.
And I love the focus. We'll get to it, but the constant focus on Emery in the background. Emery in the background.
Stallone was
also.
Like, and also like, shown in a way as like he's supposed to be protecting her. She's like, no, Emery's here. Like, there's like casual mentions to it, but it's like, what's Emery gonna do? And we find out after what happens to Emery.
And then Dwight calls Goody from New York, and he's like, "What are you doing? I'm to the fucking 3 a.m." And he's like,
I don't
care what time." Yeah.
When Stallone,
is there some stupid shit going on?
I don't know if there's anything going on with your daughter.
Look, I don't know what you're talking about.
Why would you mention my daughter's important?
Yeah,
why would you say that?
Totally.
And he's like,
But
I
I'll
don't know.
reach out
Listen,
to the big guy.
I know what's going on. It's like, you get on your first flight over here. I'm gonna take the Amtrak. I don't like flying.
Yeah, totally.
We know that
you bring her up. The like dead-eyed casual.
Dude, Stallone's scary. I heard him talking about mobsters, like in preparing for this role. He's like, I didn't want to play like these dead-eyed guys, you know. I wanted this guy to have emotions and to feel things. Like some of these guys you meet and there's nothing there. You just see that there's nothing.
Totally.
But I feel like Stallone turns on that there's nothing there.
Yeah, like when he needs to, of course.
He's like, why would you mention right. I also like how he's using his like silence and his like silent rage as bigness in this role.
Just check on the light. I was looking at the light.
Oh, good for you. And how was it?
But the thing that's
Mr. White.
Yeah, Mr. White.
Or you could do combination. The fact that Goody is also trying to like, oh, how do we cool this down? And it's like, man, like so much of it is already so intense and heightened, and it's like you're cooling down so many things. But I like it because there's an acknowledgement where he's like, fuck, this is getting fucked.
Well, that's the thing. That's, I think, what bothered me ultimately about the episode is it felt like the stakes were really high, but they were trying to tell us the stakes aren't that high so that the stakes can be
get
higher.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't need to do that. Like, I think there's a way they could have done the cooling down without like totally lowering the stakes.
Yeah, just
because it feels like it's in a different gear, the show at this point.
That's the thing. Yeah, it feels like it's headed more towards a climax than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And then they're having to like wrap up some threads with Coltrane. Call him. Colin Waltrip.
This is fucking spectacular.
Yeah. Who, like, is he Scottish? Is he Irish?
Make you think about laws. All right, I'm gonna make you learn about laws. Something like that.
A bit of a lilt in their voice.
I love that. Yeah, that was great.
Because I detect, and correct me if I'm wrong, a certain
You're not from here either.
lilt in your voice.
He goes to visit with Stacy.
That would indicate that you're not Native American.
He goes to meet up with Stacy's mom at a bar, and she is like, "You're hanging out with some weed guy? Some fucking weed guy?"
And talking about Nico and your daughter? Like, and Stallone's fear is like, oh no. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, really fast. I don't know what you're talking about. But acted it so subtly. Such good, subtle acting. Still trying to maintain a modicum of, like, control.
Like, yeah,
Stallone.
I'm figuring it out, but on the fly.
Yeah.
And she's like pleading with him. She's like, please don't do anything.
Yeah. But the wheels are in motion for Stallone.
Yeah, and the wheels are in motion for her, and her being like, I'm 2 years away from my pension.
Securing her pension.
She also fucking fucked up, you know?
Well, like, she's just like, we all already get the sense that she doesn't play by the book. She doesn't always follow the rules, and she's like Stallone in that way. Stallone's not going by the rules of Cosa Nostra anymore. It's the rules. He's still in this thing for himself now, you know? Like, he's got
Tell her we're in a bowling league together. That's his response.
Such a bossa,
which is flippant, but also charming, and it's like, oh yeah.
Would be a thing bossa would say,
Yeah,
we'll tell her in
totally.
a bowling league.
Yeah, totally.
Bossa Stallone.
Bossa Stallone. Bossa is
Bossa
Stallone,
alone.
dude. Bossa alone, dude. Oh, man, Bodhi meditating and being like, I have to, like, make this trauma go away.
And this, like, woman who's like, someone's banging at your door.
Just pounding at your door.
And he, like, takes out his earpiece. He's like, and they're like, are you Lawrence? What's his name? Like, something, Lawrence, I forget what his last name was. It's a good name.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. And he's like, we want to talk to you about Dwight Manfredi. which Dwight Manfredi. Yeah, it was.
I like these
lines.
officers. These guys are very Twin Peaks actors.
They're so
the two FBI agents that come to get Bodhi.
Yeah.
And then, oh man, dude, when it cuts to immediately them destroying everything inside the weed shop, I was like, man, like, fucking police. They would do shit like this where it's
dude, they are excited. I remember one time we were crossing the border with my band. We were crossing the border,
so excited,
coming into the Canadian side, not even going into the American side. It was always worse with the Americans, but we had this one experience with the Canadians where they tore apart our van, like tore it apart, didn't find anything. Everything was left in utter chaos, but they found rolling papers and Visine, and they put it carefully, threateningly left it on a desk, laid out where we could see it when we got back, to be like, we know you probably sometimes have weed. And that's what they were looking for. It's like, it was before it was legal here, but like, I mean, like, man, like, I don't know, like, was just like so threatening for no reason.
Speaking of threatening, I love in the scene where Chicky, Pop, Goody are all talking, and he's like,
maybe
"Why?
Go
He
see
keeps
him.
bringing back the envelopes. It's fine." And it's like, but what if it's a trap, Pa? What if it's a trap?
Oh, man, you did. The way you did it so well of like trying to stay calm, but talking to his dad like, I'm a fucking loser, Pa.
Your old man, Mr. Loser.
I got Fredo energy.
Yeah, totally. It's a little bit like, it feels like the two values are clashing in an interesting way.
There's a divide between the old school and the new school,
but not just the old school and the new school, but sometimes the old school works and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes the new school works and sometimes it doesn't.
Totally.
And they're all of them are way too prideful to ever let anybody think that anybody's wrong.
Yeah.
So it's gonna escalate like this always. So that I do appreciate that, because it does feel like, like the macho energy is the thing that's bringing all of them down.
Oh, absolutely. And just
money.
like the different like avenues of toxicity and toxic masculinity. It was really, really interesting.
Imagine me, if you will, a man spending years building a business. Oh man, this outrageous scene between Waltrip.
There's so many Bosa energy
in
moments.
his own community, in his own home, and Stallone just being like,
that was almost beautiful.
That was almost poetic.
I loved it. It's like, there's just one thing. I detect a certain lilt in your voice that would tell me that you're not...
That you were in Creed with me? I don't know. You were in Creed?
You played an Italian guy in Creed? I don't know.
Even though you're weirdly Irish, you had a weird accent in that, and you have a weird accent in this.
You were weirdly racist in that movie? I don't know.
I'm weirdly racist in this show? I don't know.
Well, yeah.
To find a stranger... his accent is so weird to pin down. It's what is this?
It's like, it's sometimes sounded Scottish, sometimes sounded Irish, and like I was like, this guy's from London, so I'm like, he doesn't sound like, is he just like really doing a bad job, or are we just, I don't know. We don't know. I mean, we don't know.
But yeah, the fact that he frames it in this way, where it's like, what if you're coming into my house,
Into my house.
Tony.
You just tried. You bring that mother.
and pulling food out of
There's a problem with your allegory, though.
I love that.
There's a problem with your allegory. Your allegory doesn't include that. There's a certain lilt.
I love that, because he's like, yeah, you're saying it's your house, but clearly you're not from here.
And it's like in the
I'm
words
not
of
from here either.
Woody Guthrie, who actually was from Oklahoma.
Yeah,
this
totally.
land was made for you and me.
Yeah, totally.
Oh man,
Kind of like
there's
the
a lot of
Charms leprechaun.
There's a lot of you and me.
And I love too this scene.
Don't worry about the nitrous.
You're not exactly Native American.
No, and you know what? It's actually interesting because he does. It's interesting because when he's leaving, what's his name with the bar owner, Mitch is like, oh man, like that's your idea of de-escalating.
Yeah.
And he's like oh, nobody, I'm not diplomat. But the thing is it actually is good because he does indicate to him that he's gonna stop with the nitrous. He's like, don't worry about the nitrous. He knows that the nitrous is the sticking point and that he has to do something else for his own good.
Yeah, totally. But he has to still big dog him in some way.
Exactly, because he can't appear weak.
Dwight, what are we gonna do about this Slinky Manny at the bar when they're fucking all debriefing or whatever?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do about this wall trip guy? He is getting so much more Italian now.
Karen.
He's getting so much Karen.
He's back.
Yeah.
He's feeling back, and that's why Marcy comments on him smoking. He's like, I thought you were doing so well. He's like, because he's back. He's back.
Yeah, and he's like, we can't go to war with these guys. We're gonna rethink the nitrous stream shit and like whatever.
Yeah, practical stuff.
And then Bodhi comes back, and he's like, I got interrogated by the FBI. I'm just doing a Brandon Lim impression. We should get Lim to do just Bodhi.
It's not the same
it's not
energy,
the same,
though.
But it's not the same energy, but it's where I'm coloring my voice to get Bodhi is through Brandon Lim. You fucking serious? And I love that Mitch is like, all right, well, I have to pat you down.
Pats him down with rib fingers.
Oh yeah.
He's like, oh, didn't even clean your hands from those ribs. He fills him up, and then
I got interrogated by the feds.
What'd you give them? Nothing.
The truth.
Of course.
You're
my
business
partners.
I love that. That was great.
Because that actually like sets it up of like we're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah,
it's not racketeering. We're working together.
It's not racketeering, but we still don't know about the legality of the weed is the thing.
Well,
I mean, it could be Toronto legal.
We get the no. It's not federally legal in the States, so they're allowed to if the feds raid because it's under federal jurisdiction. That's the whole thing in the show.
Yeah.
But they take the stock out. They don't tell Bodhi that, but we get revealed.
Yeah, we get the reveal that everything was taken, all the weed, all the cash was taken to another place. And Bodhi, because he's been so traumatized, he goes to hug Stallone and he's like,
"Oh, don't kiss me."
Don't kiss me.
Stallone's punching.
I'm homophobic, Stallone.
Exactly.
I'm homophobic Dwight, but I'm homophobic Stallone.
I'm also playing. It's the most me character I ever played. I might have hugged the guy, but like Dwight would punch him.
This felt so irritating. It's like, I know you've got to get your daughter and she's important in the show a little more. It was fun as a cameo. This was so weird where it's like the horse isn't coming, which is fine. I like the horse. It was very Twin Peaks.
I like
bringing the horse.
Yeah.
But then he's gonna like ask this random stranger, his daughter, that.
But my daughter's important.
I'm gonna buy you this horse.
Hey, I'll get your job. Like I got you this job in this show.
This show, yeah. Listen, we haven't met. I'm Dwight. You're my daughter. You don't look like my real daughter, but this is what you look like.
Tina looks more like my real daughter, but you're my
Spencer.
You're tall. I'm
Spencer.
so glad you're tall. You're taller than me. You're taller than your dad. And that's all I wanted in life is for a daughter. Anyway, yeah. So
they go to buy the horse, who's going to get killed and mushed up into food
and
glue. And I felt like this was weird. It felt weirdly pandering to this actor too, who I think is like a Mexican guy, or I don't know what this guy is, but like he felt like, oh, are you the owner of this horse? And it's like, nah, Knocker's coming to get him. Like
Knocker, do you pay how much you pay the Knocker? The Knocker, no,
we pay the Knocker.
We pay the Knocker. Yeah. Or how much?
I actually really like
that was a good reveal.
Interaction, but
I'll give you $300 for the horse.
But like, I don't know, they come to glue for leather. It just felt like it could have been a better written scene. Like it needed a punch up, a knocker, if you will.
Well, I don't know that unless they're like setting something up. Historically, the show has paid off on things.
Yeah,
so I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, but I didn't like this either. It felt weird. Like, is this Sistine? What's this daughter's name? It's like Sistine Rose or something. Or it's just like a flower name. Anyway, yeah, like she was
Scarlett Rose Stallone.
Scarlett Rose Stallone. She was good. She was good. She was good in the scenes. It just felt like
it just felt like this scene...
But my daughter's important.
Yeah, this scene ends with Stacy calling Stallone and being like, hey, so I've got an idea, which is a good idea. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, and I'm standby.
That they want to set up Waltrip because they want gun charges on him, and that'll give heat off Stallone and off Stacy, which I really liked the payoff of her
smart.
being like, hey, like, you're fucking me, not in a good way. Let's fucking do this, and you're not going to get 25 more years on top. And it's like, it makes sense. He's like, I'm not a rat. I'm not a rat.
Yeah, and this is where like we once again get kind of like unreasonable Stallone, because he does seem like he's like always oscillating between like he's open-minded Stallone and he's willing to accept new things, but there's certain things he won't budge on, and this is something he's very old school on. He won't work with a cop. He'll fuck a cop, but he won't work with one.
Well, he didn't know, so...
That's true, but he's continued.
It cuts back to Waltrip, looking at so much money. He has so much money. And he's talking to Macy's boyfriend or husband,
Oh,
Pike.
the guy... Yeah.
Dude, this
Pike
was amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a good, interesting character.
He was a good, interesting... And she makes... It's more interesting that she's with this guy because he's so clearly violent towards this woman, and she so clearly wants to leave this life. And, like, him being like... What the fuck? Mind your own business. It was like, man, like these kinds of guys, dude. Like,
yeah, it was a really good scene. And it also, like, I think the setup of Pike and the payoff, the setup of the relationship between Maisie and Pike, and then the like payoff at the end of the episode, which we'll get to, I just thought was like really. I think it's setting something up for further along.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And then it cuts back to Margot's and Manny's job, actually. And man, Stallone getting this girl this job, which, like, whatever, it'll pay off. Hopefully it'll pay off. And Margaret...
Today's my last day at the coffee shop.
Yeah. So
where's the horse? Let's go find the horse together. I don't know you. You'll just come with me.
It's bizarre. It's
really weird.
And then
it's like you're my daughter.
He has an totally. He has an interaction with Margaret, who's like, "Oh, you city boys, you don't like seeing how the sausage is made. You love the sausage, but you hate seeing how it's made."
Oh, man. She loves the sausage. She loves the Italian stallion, dude.
Oh, totally.
I
can't wait till
she wants some Stallone.
Yeah, I mean, and I love when he just like, "Oh, is this what you need to give my daughter a horse stable? She's only gonna be here for a week. Come on. She's only gonna film a scene for a week. That's with my daughter, Scarlet Rose. She's gonna be a Stallone."
Executive producer Stallone. What?
Yeah, totally.
She just won out. You know, I made her audition for the part, and you know, like she really hit it out of the park.
She killed it. Her name is gonna be Spencer. That's progressive, you know. A girl's name for a boy's name, you know. God,
isn't that what we're doing these days?
Woke,
I don't know.
She's
got some pronouns too. Let me tell you, she's got Stallone pronouns. All right.
Her pronouns are sta and lone.
As in, leave her Stallone.
Anyway, he gets a week to be the daughter until they find a new place to put the horse. Until
they find more reasons to include Scarlet Rose.
Totally. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And in the next scene, we get Dwight propositioning Mitch to be partners. And he's like, "You serious? I ran a club in New York in the 80s. Of course I did, because I'm an 80s Stallone."
You do some Go-Go Girls, a band. Hey, I play music. You're the house band.
Yeah,
you're the house band.
Some pretty good food here, you know? You just need a little push.
I mean, this is further...
This is on Cherokee land, and you played a Native American in a movie called Rambo.
I mean, you know what? Like, at least this show is like having an attempt to like have like to talk about that a little bit and have some representation. They like mention stuff in it. Like it's very Americana in that way. I think it's like doing a lot of things. I don't know if it's always like, you know, it's focusing on the plot of the story, but like it's cool that there's some inclusion.
And then Emery drops Tina and his kid off.
And does some great background guy acting of
acting,
subtly looking over his shoulder.
But then Cheeky, of all people, I love the fact that Cheeky went out because he's so
in his
mad.
Tracksuit.
Yeah, he's
just
so mad at having his driver get killed, and he breaks. I think it was something of his arm.
Broke his arm.
Broke my arm.
He twists his arm back, but for Cheeky himself to do it.
What did you think? I felt a little bit weird about it.
No, it makes sense. He's going against his dad's wishes. His dad said it in front of everyone. He's not just going to hire someone. He is acting boss, but I think he did it himself to take ownership in a way.
His ego.
And that's what he's personally bruised because his dad said that Stallone's better than him.
Totally. Well, kind of is.
I mean, of course, for the purposes of the show as well, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt Cheeky to hear that from his dad, right?
And then cuts back to the bar and we see gunshots throwing through the bar and fucking, if you got a gun, use it.
Good guy with a gun, Stallone.
Good guy with a gun, Stallone. And then he sees it's Pike and he fucking drops him immediately.
Yeah, they shoots him from the side. And so now that was what I was wondering about. Do you think that the death of Pike will be a complication for Macy in the sense that she's going to get more activated and against Stallone, or do you think she's going to get more pro Stallone?
I don't know, but this is the most interesting stuff in a very, very sloppy episode.
That's the thing.
Because right after they kill Pike, he's like, "You got yourself a partner," and it's like, bro, deal with the it's just a little bit too casual. Some of the violence is oh my god, and then other of the violence is well, we're partners now. It's bro, you just fucking murdered a dude.
What did you think of the other Danny Mulroon of this movie? And that's the character of Babe, the old guy who's
oh yeah,
I don't know if I could take this shit anymore. And someone's you and me both, babe. I don't know if I could take this shit either.
I liked it.
I liked it too.
I liked it.
Yeah. And is that where it ends?
That's where it ends, and then we get the recap or the next time on.
Yeah, which
I never watched.
We'll get to.
Really
I watched it this time. I was pretty excited. It's we get some more goodie stuff. We get some goodies with goodie. I'm excited about that.
It really does feel a little bit like every other episode is better than the last. Here's what the order. It seems like every other episode is great, and every one of the odd episodes is better than the last odd episode, but they all feel when it's not
even episodes.
Even
you
episodes,
don't like the even episodes.
When the even episodes are getting better as they go, but it feels like the writing is sloppy. It feels like when they try and include other things besides just a Stallone narrative, it's it takes a little bit of the wind out of my sails. Whereas, in contrast to something like this, another multi-pronged, multi-storied show is White Lotus, which I'm on the second episode of, and it's so brilliantly handled that it feels a little bit like this has the budget of a big show. It's got a good writer, the classic.
The thing is, I feel like if it's a little bit of a dated show, I think, maybe in a way, and it is.
It would have functioned really well in 08 to 10.
I think it's also pretty deeply entrenched. What everyone's saying is that it does have tonal problems. It has pretty fundamental. By episode 6, I've got to say it's got some tonal issues. It doesn't know always what it wants to be, and I've been trying to fight that urge to say that, but it's it
was what I mentioned in the third episode, where it's it really found its way into having that problem.
That's the thing. Is it's now just has that tone. That is its tone.
Exactly.
Which is fine. That it's Stallone.
Yeah, exactly.
But how many Stallones would you give it?
Probably 6.
I don't know, man. I would give it a 7.5 alone for that speech at the beginning.
Dude. Ew. No.
I mean, not that one. That I give a 10 out of 10. But 7.5 for me because he's also tonally ambiguous Stallone a little bit.
I love that scene.
I did like kind of like sketchy,
shifty Stallone.
Yeah, like doesn't know, losing the thread Stallone. Yeah,
yeah. Ultimately, I feel like what makes up for this episode are the Cheeky Pete scenes, the Christina Stallone scenes. All the stuff with the barista should be gone. All the stuff
nepotism.
With
Stallone is not a Stallone.
Not a good
like.
Stallone. No. Maisie is great.
Maisie's mom. Yeah.
And
Stacy's also now deeply entrenched in that, like, you know, is she only servicing the main character here?
That's the thing. Yeah. It's like almost like they took a little bit away from Stacy and gave it to Maisie.
Yeah,
and
I
then
agree.
there's this third Margaret person who I'm like, fine, like she'll come back later. Then let her come back later. You know what I mean? Just don't put her in the show anymore. I don't know.
In contrast, though, I would say that the inclusion of Tina now as a main character is pretty nice.
Yeah, because then we have like, what can she do in New York?
Exactly, and she's keeping that thread alive, and there's an excuse to check back in with her.
And have that. So, like, overall, for the episode, I'd probably give it like a 6.
6 for Stallone's.
No, for an episode.
Yeah, I'd give it a 6 too. Maybe even a 5.5. Like, if I'm like, you know, if I really want to get like a range in this season, I think it drops pretty low for me, just because I now have some expectations.
In comparison to the rest, yeah. Because the last episode was like 9. That was like pretty excellent.
It was really good. It was a really good... I gave it a 10 because, like, I don't know what else... I don't know if anything's going to top it.
That's true. Anyway, follow us at...
Thirst for More % on Instagram.
At More Thirsty on Twitter.
And guys, the crown jewel of them all, the Patreon. Yep. Patreon.com/thirstyformore. Also, I don't know if you're listening... Thank you, first of all, to all of the Reddit people. Thank you for making every episode...
Smash that like button.
Every episode bigger than the last.
Subscribe. You've got to subscribe to the YouTube.
Oh, man. I love how naturally... are like just hanging out became YouTube personalities.
Oh yeah,
but thank you so much. Like check out the whole season.
Check out the podcast.
If you guys like Stallone, you'll love Stallone Cuts. Our entire season we do. Just look for Stallone Cuts, Thirsty for More, anywhere you download podcasts, and you know, review, like, subscribe, tell a friend.
Put us in the algorithm.
Yeah,
I want to get to the algorithm. We had a lot of views. Getting to a lot of views. Maybe we can reach 1,000 views.
Anyway, thank you guys so much.
Bye.
See you next week.